in a beautiful coastal rural BC town right now where Rob is doing his rural rotation for his family medicine residency. As you can see behind us, there's a gorgeous ocean view where we are. The sun is shining.
Yeah, not too bad for a rural rotation. Can't complain.
Not too shabby. Today we're going to be doing a question and answer video as promised.
So thanks everybody for sending in your questions. We got a bunch on YouTube, Instagram, on Reddit even. Yeah, you guys had some really interesting questions, so we're looking forward to going through them. So here's the first question on Instagram from SWTD731. Sorry if we're not pronouncing that right. How'd you guys meet, and would you recommend post-grad studies such as a master's or post-bachelor's before or during the med school process? Do you want to answer the first part?
Sure. So Rob and I met in medical school. We were actually just friends for the first few years, part of the same kind of circle of friends within our med school class, and then eventually started dating. Medical school is actually a really good place to meet like-minded people who understand your busy schedule, and so it can make for you know, a really good it can make for a really good place to find a partner.
Alright, and then the second part is, would you recommend basically a post-grad degree before or during med school process? So I guess one of the common themes in answers for all those questions about, like, you know, should I do this or that before, is there isn't really one right answer. I know that's not very satisfying to hear, but it's true. And as an example, in our med school class, there were some people that had only bachelor's degrees, there were some people that had masters, and some people had PhDs and were working in labs. So all those types of people got in, so it wasn't really like they were favoring one over the other. I would say that if you have a really keen interest in whatever your field is for pursuing the post-grad degree, then like by all means go and do it. It's not like a requirement or anything to get into med school, that's for sure. And then doing it during the med school process, so there are most med schools have something in place where if you want, you can do like a combined master's during your med school. Or even PhD. Or even a PhD, but usually those are pretty limited in the sense that like not that many people choose to do it. Like in our med school class of around 200 and something people, I think there was like 3 or less than 5 that chose to do it, so yeah, it's possible, but not a lot of people do it.
So our next question is from Braids and Glasses. The question is, how would you recommend studying for the MCAT? So that's a great question. I myself did a MCAT prep course the summer before I wrote the MCAT. I found that to be really helpful because sometimes when I'm a self-studier, I tend to lose a little bit of motivation. So it was a good way to stay on track, a good way to make sure that I was covering all the important information. So I would say an MCAT prep course.
I would, you know, like, again, it depends on how you study. Some people didn't need it, but for me personally, I did a MCAT prep course, and I found it really useful just because it would have been hard to be motivated to study all summer long. And I actually, so I'm from Vancouver, and I started my prep course in Vancouver living at home, but then I just found I was kind of distracted, so I went back to Ontario where I did my, where I was doing my undergrad degree, and I just spent the summer by myself there doing the prep course and studying with like no distractions, and that worked really well for me. But I think the prep course was worth it in the end. So.
Yeah. At the end of the day, whether you do a prep course or not, you pretty much just have to commit the entire summer to sitting down and going through the material. So it's not the most fun summer, but it's worth it in the end.
Yeah. This one is from Realist on Instagram. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I'm gonna say yes.
Good question. You know, my first instinct was to say no because it's connected on one side, but then when you think of Subway sandwiches, they're connected on one side and they count.
So I think so.
I'm pretty torn.
Okay. Next real question from Realist. What is our favorite and least favorite travel experience? That's a good question.
My favorite, I think, was during med school, or after the second year. A bunch of my friends, we all went on a 2-month backpacking trip through South America, and the first thing that we did was like a 4-day hike on the Inca Trail up to Machu Picchu, and that was probably like one of the best travel things I've ever done.
I would say one of my favorite travel experiences was being in Nepal, where I went after the second year of medical school. We were volunteering at a medical school there, and we had the opportunity to go to the Chitwan National Forest and it was absolutely incredible, and it was monsoon season, and we got to play in the water with elephants, and it's one of the places that I always close my eyes and think back to and think about what an incredible experience it was.
What's your least favorite?
My least favorite travel experience? I think probably also from the same trip, using toilets in rural Nepal.
That doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
No. So we've got a question, the road to residency. What is internship like? So that's a good question. It's a big question. We have made a video before, kind of a day in the life of a resident, so check out the link to that below. That can hopefully give you some insight as to what our day-to-day is like as working in the hospital as a resident.
It's pretty variable. Like, your experience as a resident or an intern really depends on, you know, your specific program, both like what specialty you're in and also where you're doing it. Like, for instance, you know, a general practice resident or family medicine resident is going to have a totally different experience than a psychiatric or psych resident, and is different than a surgery resident. So it's pretty variable depending on the specific field that you're in.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, it's a busy, you know, 2 to 5 years, but very variable.
This is from Derek Ken Mexit. How do you feel about Trump's decision to dismantle Obamacare? That's a good one, pretty politically charged. So first of all, we're both from Canada, we both trained in Canada, and we're both working in Canada. Neither of us have ever worked in the American healthcare system, so, you know, to be honest, we can't really give like a fair evaluation of it.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of intricacies that we probably don't really understand. I would say that, and you can, if you think different, you can say, but we probably align with the American Medical Association and what their, you know, standpoint is, and they are, you know, I think they're pretty concerned about people losing their health care, especially people that are in the lowest socioeconomic status, because those are the sickest people that need it the most. But again, you know, like, we don't really understand a lot about the American system, so we're just gonna have to side with the American Medical Association standpoint.
Yeah. Next question from Evan891. What kind of GPA is generally needed to get into medical school? So again, it really depends on which medical school you're applying to, what the rest of your application looks like. In Canadian medical schools, it's about 50-50 when they look at academics and extracurriculars. So you can absolutely make up for a low GPA or a low-ish GPA if you have really strong extracurriculars. But in general, I would say it's probably, I mean, the higher the better.
Yeah, I mean, if you want like specific hard numbers, like, go look at each individual schools and they'll give you cutoffs, so you at least know what the cutoff is. And if you don't have this cutoff, they won't even look at the rest of your application, so that's an important number to know. But, you know, that doesn't mean if you have the cutoff you're going to get in. It needs to be higher, but just so you have an idea. Alright, it's from Fletcher20 on Reddit. Any advice for a freshman in college on what to do and not to do on the path to medical school? That's interesting. So I guess on the path, like when you're in university, one thing is to, you know, look at the medical schools that you're considering applying to and making sure that during your university you're going to meet all the prerequisite requirements. And different schools have different requirements, so you need to make sure you have, like, if it's required, you know, your first year organic chemistry, your biochemistry, or none of it. But it depends on the school. So that's one thing that's really important.
What else to do on your path to medical school? I mean, obviously academic success is a really big component of applying to medical school, getting in, and then actually being in medical school. So I would say make sure you study really hard and work hard towards your courses so you can sort of put your best foot forward when you apply. But also a big don't is don't forget about everything else. So don't forget that it's important to continue to socialize, you know, to be involved in your community, to do things you love to do. So like if you're really into sailing or dancing or photography, don't put those things on the back burner or on the sidelines just because you're trying to get to med school, because those things in the long run will help you and they'll help keep you sane.
Yeah, we had another video that we made that kind of talks a little bit about this, and we'll put a link as well. But basically, you know, you need good marks because you need to get your foot in the door. But after that, like, they need other ways to differentiate applicants, and so they want to see that you've had like an interesting life and that you have passions and that you've been pursuing them. And that you can, you know, demonstrate that. So, for example, like, you can say, oh, like, I really like photography, Or you can say, you know, I really like photography and I've entered my photos in this travel photo contest and I have an Instagram page with 2,000 followers or whatever. Just something that's like, you know, so you can put some like backing to what you're saying.
Yeah.
But they like to see that you have passion and that you've been doing things, you know, outside of, you know, trying to get good marks as well.
So our next question is from Deepi Bajaj. What degree and major did you choose for your undergrad? So I did a degree in general science and I had a specialization in earth and ocean science and life science.
And my degree was in biochemistry.
So the important thing to remember is you can major in pretty much anything. You can do arts, you can do sciences, you just need to make sure that you have your prerequisites covered, and aside from that it doesn't really matter what your degree is in as long as it's something you love to do and you'll do well in.
Yeah, just looking at, there's another question from her and it says, or from him, her. Do you think an arts degree with a major in psych is a good idea? And so
if you love psych, then absolutely.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do, at the end of the day you should pick your major based on what you love and what you're going to do well in, because that's what's going to give you the best chance to get into medical school. Like we said, as long as you have the prerequisites, do what you love, and that's the important thing.
And as an example, so in our class of 200 and something people, I would say like most people had science degrees, but there was definitely people with engineering degrees, arts degrees, like psychology degrees. One of our good friends had a creative writing degree. So I mean, there's no like limit. It's just depending, you know, you have to make sure you get the prerequisites, like Supreet said,
Yeah.
and make sure the rest of your application's good.
Shai Kamaha?
Yeah.
Kamaha? I'm really sorry if I said that wrong. So can you have a relationship in medical school? Absolutely.
Yeah, so the answer is yes.
Yes, there were people who came into medical school in relationships that maintain their relationships. A lot of people paired up in medical school, so yes. What other jobs can you do with an MD degree? That is a really good question, and the answer is you can do a lot of different jobs. You can be a clinician, so that's a doctor who sees patients and you do kind of what we're trained for. A lot of people go on to get their MBAs and then go into more of the business side of medicine. Some people go into more of a public health role or politics.
You can also do law, like some people do medical legal work.
Yep.
That's a possibility.
So it is definitely a springboard to go into a lot of different fields, but often it will require further training than just your MD if you want to do something else. Research is another big one. You can do a lot of research if that's more of your interest. And then one more question: during med school, do you have time to hang out with friends? Again,
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
It's so fun. Med school is like one of the best times in my life.
Yeah, it was one of the most fun experiences of my life. Like, you study hard and you work hard, but you also, you know, you travel, you make lifelong friendships. It's
kind of cool because, like, unlike university where you have different courses with different people, in med school it's like you have the same classes with the same people all the time. Well, and then you move on and do your clerkship, but you know, you spend a really big chunk of time with the same group of people, and so you get to know each other really well. Plus, like, you're going through this crazy life transforming experience together, and that really like bonds people together as well, and you end up having a lot in common.
Yeah.
You form some really great friendships.
Yeah. It's safe to say that was probably the most fun 4 years of my life.
Yeah. So yeah, you have lots of time to hang out with friends.
So we tried to cover as many questions as we could. We'll do another question and answer video soon. If you guys have more questions, please email them to us, send them to us through Instagram, Reddit, YouTube. We will make another video. If we didn't get to your question today, we'll put it in our next one. So
yeah, thanks very much for sending them all in.
Thanks so much, and thanks for watching.
See ya.